Good morning, students. So you are welcome back once again to the physics class. We are now going to start with one of the very interesting topics, which is radioactivity. Okay. Now this particular topic of radioactivity comes under modern physics, which you will find in the contents of the book. So before we start with the radioactivity, let me first brief you about the exact nature of the nature and the amount or the extent to which the questions can be asked from this chapter as far as your syllabus is concerned. Okay, so after the reduced syllabus, let me first tell you which portion has been removed from this particular chapter of modern physics. You will now not have to study nuclear fission and fusion. Okay, so that's the major part that has been removed, but still the very basics of radioactivity, which comes under modern physics, which will be studied in this particular chapter or topic. So next comes the weightage of this particular chapter in your board exams. Let me tell you that for most of the times I'm telling you, the last question of your board examination paper is from this particular chapter, modern physics. Sometimes one full question is asked, sometimes you get slightly less than that. Okay, so talking in terms of the marks, how many marks can be allotted to this particular chapter in your paper, it can vary from 6 marks up to let's say 10 to 12 marks. Okay, so minimum 6 marks you can expect, and maximum it can go to 10-12 marks as well. Okay, so now having briefed you about it, now let us study what radioactivity is. So I'll first break this particular word into two parts. One is obviously radio and the other one is activity. Okay, so activity involving radiations. This word radio is basically coming from the word radiations. Okay, so something is being emitted out. Okay, from where, when, what is the condition, all these things we will be studying now as we move on. Okay, so any activity which involves radiations will be termed as radioactivity. Now let me first give you a different aspect, a different name of this particular process also. This is also known as nuclear reactions. These radioactivity as a process is also called as nuclear reactions. Okay, so although this particular word you are not very familiar with, but you are well aware of this term, which is chemical reactions. Okay, so chemical reactions, now let me tell you the difference between these two, a very basic and a very important aspect of the difference. Chemical reactions, I have taken the very basic of the example, you have studied it hundreds of times till now. Na plus Cl gives you NaCl. Okay, now it is very simple to write it. Na plus Cl gives sodium chloride. So sodium atom is getting combined with a chlorine atom and you are getting a product of sodium chloride, a product in the form of sodium chloride. So what is the reason why this particular these particular atoms get together and form that particular new product? Okay, so what is the reason? The reason is very well obvious to you all. In chemistry you keep studying sodium, the atomic number is 11. So if you write down the electronic configuration, you will have 2, 8 and 1. So in the K shell, L shell and M shell, you will have the outermost shell has, or the valence shell has 1 electrons. Okay, 1 electron, single electron. Okay, so that actually does not make sodium atom very stable. Okay, because according to the stability rules, now I'm not going to go into all those details, you already know that the outermost shell should either have 2 or 8 electrons. Okay, so over here if you see, it is very easy for this particular sodium atom to give away 1 extra electron. So why am I calling this electron as extra? Because this is the only electron lying in the M shell. So if it goes away, then effectively you will have sodium ion getting formed. Sodium ion, which is a cation obviously, sodium ion. Why? Because 1 electron gets lost So you have, now the new configuration becomes 2 and 8. Okay, so now you have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. So similarly, now if you talk about let's say chlorine, why does chlorine combine? So chlorine, you have 17, so you have 2, 8 and 7. So in the outermost shell you have 7, it needs 1. Okay, so it needs 1 electron, it will become 2, 8, 8. So this particular sodium has 1 extra electron, this chlorine has 1 shortage of 1 electron, therefore they combine together. How do they combine together? First, sodium becomes Na plus and chlorine becomes Cl minus, then they combine together and you have a product NaCl. So now after having briefed you all about this, let me ask you a question. Na plus and Cl minus, they got combined and they formed NaCl. Na and Cl, before reacting they were known as reactants. After they reacted, a new product got formed. Okay, so reactants are giving you product. Remember, we are studying chemical reactions. Okay, so in this sodium atom and in this chlorine atom, what part of the atom actually combined or caused this particular change? It was the electron. If you remember, I have drawn over here, this 1 electron got lost in the sense this was released by sodium and chlorine captured it. Okay, so essentially the change that is taking place both in sodium and chlorine atoms is the change of electron, the shifting of the electron from one to the other. Okay, has this particular process involved the nucleus of sodium or the nucleus of chlorine? No, the change has taken place, or the combination has taken place because of the electrons. And electrons, it is very obvious, they do not lie inside the nucleus, they are there in the respective shells or orbits around the nucleus. Okay, so chemical reactions are caused not by the nucleus but by the revolving electrons. Okay, that's the very basic difference between a chemical reaction and a nuclear reaction, in which in nuclear reaction the nucleus takes part in the reaction. Electrons have nothing to do with the nuclear reactions. Okay, so it is the nucleus that takes part in the reactions. How and in under what conditions, all that we are going to study. Now, just like in chemical reaction we had reactants giving you products, similarly under nuclear reactions you will have a parent nucleus which will be the original nucleus, and it will give you a new nucleus which will be called, the general name will be daughter nucleus. Okay, and obviously there will be some radiations. Please remember, the topic is radioactivity, so this is coming under nuclear reactions. So this nucleus gives away either alpha or beta and gamma. Okay, so these details we will study a little later. For the time being, you understand that something is being given out. Radiation, some radiations are being given out. Given out by who? Given out by this parent nucleus. Okay, and it is resulting in the formation of a new product or a new nucleus in this case, which is known as the daughter nucleus. So please remember, chemical reaction, reactants give you products. Nuclear reaction, parent nucleus gives you the daughter nucleus. Okay, so these are the technical terms that you'll have to remember. Now the big question, why? Why means, why does a chemical reaction take place? Why does a nuclear reaction take place? Why do things become radioactive? So the reason is the same, the attainment of stability. Okay, I told you that this 1 electron is usually lost or given away. Why? To make the electronic configuration a stable configuration, which is 2, 8. Okay, similarly chlorine takes 1 electron to get stable. Okay, same thing happens with the nuclear reactions also. Why is this X nucleus giving you some radiations? Because this parent nucleus must not be stable. So in order to attain stability, a little more comparatively, I am talking about a little more stability, it gives out some radiations. Now which radiations will it give out? Alpha, beta, gamma, what are these? When do they come out? All these we will study a little later. So the reason is stability. Okay. Now let us move on to the next topic. Okay, so let us have a throwback on the atomic structure before we move forward, because we will have to deal with the nuclear reactions in which nucleus will be taking part. Okay, please remember, now chemical reaction portion is over. That I had introduced just to tell you the differences between these two types of reactions. So throwback means basically a small revision kind of thing on atomic structure. So suppose this is an atom. Okay, obviously it comprises of a nucleus, centrally located nucleus. Nucleus has protons as well as neutrons, okay, in it. All around there are different orbits depending upon the element. You have K, L, M, N shells. These shells will have electrons. Okay, so you are well aware of that. Now, protons, please remember the symbol will be 1p1. Electron -1 E0. Obviously proton is positively charged, so we put a plus sign. Electron is negatively charged, so -1 E0 is the symbol. And neutron obviously is neutral. Okay, so 0 and 1 will be the symbol or the notation used. You are well aware of all this. Okay, so now let us understand. Suppose now obviously these are some of the ways in which we will find the nuclear reactions having some of the entries like this. So let us say, suppose you have an element X. Okay, so now this element X can be any element. This is a general version. Okay, and you have a small z written here, and you have a capital Z written over here, right at the bottom left side, and at the top you have A over here. Or this can also be written alternatively like this: Z to the left hand bottom and A to the right hand top corner. So what does it suggest? This Z over here tells you the atomic number of that element. Which element? X. Okay, in this case the element is X. So Z is the atomic number. Atomic number obviously means number of protons and also equal to number of electrons. Okay, so I have not written that. Atomic number is equal to number of protons. Please remember, protons lie inside the nucleus. Okay, A stands, this A stands for atomic mass. Okay, and this mass is basically the mass of the atom. Okay, the word atomic mass tells you that it is the mass of the entire atom, but you know, as a chemistry student, you know that actually the electrons do not have much mass. Their mass is negligible. So whatever mass an atom has, that mass is primarily because of the nucleus of the atom, and nucleus of the atom has two things: protons and neutrons. So atomic mass will be equal to number of protons plus neutrons. Okay, so if somebody tells you how do you find out, let's say for example we take 11 Na23. Okay, so suppose somebody takes this particular element, this is an atom of sodium. So you have 11 as the atomic number. So you have let's say for example Z will be taken as 11, okay, which will be equal to number of protons, and the atomic mass is 23, and this is equal to P plus N. I have just told you that. Okay, so if somebody wants to know how many neutrons are there, okay, so obviously you can do A minus Z. Okay, so A is 23 minus Z is 11, so you get 12 neutrons. Okay, so the number of neutrons are 12 and the number of protons are 11. So I have taken this particular example just to tell you how to calculate the number of protons and neutrons and so on. Now, a more important aspect of what we have to study is this particular part. Okay, everybody knows that any element, if you take let's say we take carbon for example, a very commonly known element, you have carbon. Okay, the carbon that you are very familiar with is this carbon 6C12. Okay, because you generally write carbon 12. Okay, the atomic mass is 12 and the atomic number is 6. Okay, but do you also know that there is the presence of 6C13 also, 6C14 also in the environment all around us? You don't just have C12, but you also have C13, but you also have C14 and so on. Okay, so what are all these? These are all atoms of carbon only. Okay, so what is the similarity between them? Just see, have a look. The similarity is the atomic number. So they have the same atomic number, 666. But what about the mass number? The mass numbers are all different. Okay, so whenever we get such a case, we say that these are isotopes of carbon. Okay, so the definition and all is given in the book. I am basically just trying to explain this. Isotopes are elements of this. Isotopes are atoms of the same element. So which is that same element? The same element is carbon. Okay, so here you see 6, 6 and 6. The number of protons in all these cases are 6, whereas the atomic masses are different. So atoms of the same element carbon having same atomic number but different mass number, they are known as isotopes. Similarly, in your book, if you see, you will also find the element chlorine. Okay, so let me give you that example also. Chlorine, you have 17Cl35 also, and then you have 17Cl37 also. In this case also, you see, you have the same atomic number but different mass numbers. Okay, so these are isotopes of chlorine. Similarly, you have, in case of hydrogen, the very first element, 1H1, 1H2, 1H3, protium, deuterium, tritium, all these are isotopes of carbon. Now, why are we studying all this? Because, you see, the beginning of this particular topic dealt with, just now I have explained that some nuclei, some nucleus, nuclei is the plural of the word nucleus. So some nucleus, essentially they are not stable. Okay, so they want to become stable by giving out radiations. Okay, so what is the reason why they are unstable? So that reason basically will be obtained by this ratio, which is known as the N/P ratio. N obviously is number of neutrons and P stands for number of protons. Okay, so the greater the value of N/P ratio, okay, as long as N/P ratio keeps on exceeding 1 and keeps on getting bigger and bigger. Let's say, for example, N/P ratio for a particular isotope is 1.2. For another one it is 1.5. Okay, for another one it is 1.8. Okay, so the greater the value of N/P ratio, the more probability or more chance of it being unstable. Therefore, it will be radioactive. Now, when it is radioactive, it can give you alpha, it can give you beta, and along with gamma. Okay, so please remember, alpha, beta and gamma we will study in detail. For the time being, you please note that this is the symbol of alpha, this is the symbol of beta, a B with an elongated tail, and then you have gamma written like this. It's not an R, there is a small hash over here. Okay, so alpha, beta and gamma, these are the radiations that usually come out of a nucleus. Please note that at the same time from a particular atom, either alpha will come out or beta will come out along with gamma. Alpha and beta generally do not come out together from the same nucleus at the same time. Why? Because alpha is positively charged, beta is negatively charged, and gamma is neutral, no charge, zero charge. Okay, so all these details, the exact notation I will be telling you further on in the chapter. So for the time being, you please remember, alpha is positively charged, beta is negatively charged. Beta is actually nothing but a stream of electrons. Okay, a stream of negatively charged particles is known as the beta particle. Okay, so obviously since it is a stream of electrons, therefore it will be negatively charged. Okay, and gamma is just simply radiations, pure energy. it does not have any mass, it does not have any charge. Okay, so gamma radiations, no charge, no mass, beta negatively charged, alpha positively charged with the maximum mass among the three. Okay, so this is what we are going to study next. Okay, so now let us move on to the next one after isotopes. Next you have isobars. Okay, now the easiest thing is to understand with the help of examples. We understood isotopes with the help of carbon as the atom, as the element. Now we have isobars. Have a look here. 11Na23. So obviously a sodium atom. Have a look there. That's a magnesium atom. But not the usual one that you study. You study 12Mg24. This is 12Mg23. Okay. So if I talk about 12Mg23 and 12Mg24, then these will be isotopes. But I am going to talk about this sodium atom here and this magnesium atom over here. What is the similarity? Can you have a look at this and look at this part only and tell me the similarity? Yes, the atomic masses are same. So this time it's the opposite. In isotopes, the atomic numbers were same, masses were different. Here, atomic masses are same, atomic numbers are different. Okay, so the definition will be isobars are atoms of different elements. Sodium and magnesium are not same, they are different. Okay, having the same mass number but different atomic number. Okay, this you have studied in chemistry also. Now, coming to the last one, which is isotones. Have a look here at these two examples. Neither the atomic number is same nor the atomic mass is same, and obviously the atom themselves are not same. One is a sodium atom, the other one is a magnesium atom. Okay, so what is same in these two? What is same in these two is the number of neutrons. You see, 23 minus 11, atomic mass minus atomic number will give you 12 as the number of neutrons. This is in the first case. Have a look at the second case. Number of neutrons. Again the formula will be same. Atomic mass minus the atomic number. So you get 12. So in this and in this, the number of neutrons are coming out to be same, and hence the word isotones. Okay, so isotones are atoms of different elements having the same number of neutrons. This can be the easy definition. Okay, you will find a number of other examples also. So it is essential that for examination purpose you remember the basic theory, the concept, and some of the examples, the very basic examples like this. Okay, if you want a bigger example, I can give you a very common radioactive element that you have is uranium, represented with a capital U. You have 92U235 and you also have 92U238. Okay, so what are these? Are these isotopes, or are these isobars, or are these isotones? So you will see immediately the atomic numbers are same. Okay, and it's the same element, so it is going to be isotopes. Okay, so these are two isotopes of uranium, and if you see, the uranium is, by the way, a very highly radioactive element. N by P ratio is much greater than 1. If you calculate the number of neutrons, obviously you will have to calculate. Protons is 92 in both cases. N will be calculated by subtracting 92 from 235. So you will get a far greater number. Okay, so this ratio is much greater than 1, and hence the nucleus of uranium is highly unstable and it keeps giving you radiations. Okay, now these radiations, there are two types of the kinds of radiations that we will study. One is the radiations that are coming out of these particular elements, which by essence are very highly unstable. These radiations, and then the other category is background radiations. Okay, so next topic that we will be dealing with now in this particular lecture will be background radiations, and in what way are they different from the radiations given out by these isotopes. Okay, so obviously when one asks you what sort of isotopes are these, what sort of an isotope is this? This is a highly unstable isotope of uranium. What sort of a isotope is this? 6C12 of carbon. Obviously 6C12 is a isotope of carbons. Same with 6C13, same with 6C14. So what is the speciality of this particular isotope of carbon? It is stable. Why is it stable? Because if you calculate the N by P ratio, number of neutron is also 6, number of proton is also 6. So the value of N by P ratio is not greater than 1. It is actually equal to 1. Therefore, it is stable. Whereas if you calculate the N by P ratio in this particular case, you will see that the number of neutrons will be 14 minus 6, which will be 8, and the number of protons is 6. So N by P ratio here will come out to be 2 4s are 8, 2 3s are 6, which will be 1.33, which is greater than 1. Therefore, the last one that you see, 6C14 over there, that is a radioisotope of carbon. Okay, which means this isotope is not stable. It will keep on giving you radiations, which you will not be able to see, by the way, but it will affect you. Now, the fact that out of these three isotopes of carbon, the maximum percentage of availability of isotope is of this one. In the nature that we have, this is the most abundantly available. This is not present in the environment to that extent, so it really does not affect us all much. But if you get a higher concentration of that carbon, it is bound to be radioactive. Therefore, it is going to cause destruction unless used otherwise for constructive purposes. Okay, so now we are going to study some of the reactions and how they progress. Okay, so now let us move on further along. Radiations that we are talking about in this particular chapter, these radiations are coming out of the nucleus of the atoms, not from all the nucleus of all the atoms, but from the nuclei of only those atoms which are unstable. Okay, so basically what is unstable? The nucleus of the atoms are unstable. Why are they unstable? Because of the high value of N by P ratio. So basically that means far greater number of neutrons than protons inside the nucleus. So as long as the number of neutrons and number of protons are equal, roughly equal, the atom or the isotope of that atom will be stable. Okay, when does it become unstable? It becomes unstable when the number of neutrons start exceeding or becoming greater than the number of protons. Do you always find number of protons and neutrons equal in a nucleus? Obviously not. Sometimes, most of the times in fact, you will have the number of neutrons greater than the number of protons. So it is this difference when it exceeds, when it becomes much more, then the isotope of the atom becomes unstable, and we have dealt with a few examples. I have shown you some of them are unstable, therefore they give out radiations in the form of alpha, beta or gamma rays. Okay, now these radiations, after the name of the scientists who actually worked on it and discovered it, these are also known as Becquerel rays. Okay, now what is more important than that is, read along, some important examples of radioactive elements. Okay, so not all the elements are radioactive. In fact, not even half of them are radioactive. There are very few, and you must have studied in chemistry. In the periodic table, if you look down below, there are two rows, the actinide series and all, which you call. There are some very common and popular examples that you will find. You will find uranium, thorium, polonium, radium and actinium, and so on and so forth. What is very different in these type of elements from the normal carbon, hydrogen, magnesium and sodium that you study is the high number of neutrons that they have. So in uranium, I just showed you 92U238. So 238 minus 92, when you do, you will find there are so many number of extra neutrons that are there, and that makes it highly unstable and therefore radioactive. Okay. Second thing now we come to is radioactivity is spontaneous. Okay. Spontaneous means it keeps on taking place. Okay. Once it starts, it keeps on taking place years after years. Okay. So this process, although generically it is quite slow, but then it is spontaneous. It keeps on taking place. Nobody can stop it once it starts. Now you see, radioactivity is not affected by external factors like temperature, pressure, humidity, oxidation, and so on and so forth. Now you see, all these parameters, all these factors will affect your chemical reactions. Okay, because in most of the chemical reactions, let us take say for example the Bosch process or the Haber's process or many such reactions that you have studied, which particularly specifically give you that these reactions will operate at this temperature range. If this temperature range is not reached, the reaction will not take place. Okay, so similarly with pressure, defined pressure values are given. Unless those pressure values are reached, the reaction will not proceed. Nothing of that sort in radioactivity. Radioactivity is unaffected by all these external factors. So what decides radioactivity? What is it that actually affects radioactivity? It is nothing else but the instability of the nucleus. So as long as the nucleus is unstable, this process, this spontaneous process will keep on taking place. Okay? Radioactivity is a random phenomenon. Random means you can never guess what is going to, which ray is going to come out from a particular radioactive element in the next moment. Okay, so that is why it is a random phenomenon. Now, coming to the last part of this particular lecture, we have, as I mentioned a little while back, the background radiations. How are these background? What are these background radiations? And in what way are these different from the radiations that are coming out of a disturbed uranium atom or a thorium or a polonium atom? The difference is pretty simple. Background radiation, the reason why we are calling it as background and not foreground, not the main ones, but they are hidden in the background. So, general exposure to radiations. Now, we are all exposed to the atmosphere, to the environment around us. We eat food, we eat a lot of things which we know have a lot of carbon in them, then other salts. Maybe let's say for example, potassium is there, sodium is there in our body, potassium is there, carbon is there. So who knows which isotope of carbon is there? There may be small traces of 6C14 also in the food that we are taking. In fact, in our body we also have 19K40. The normal potassium that you have is 19K39. Okay, this is an isotope of potassium. This is an isotope of carbon. What sort of an isotope? A radioactive isotope, which is not stable. It gives out radiations, but still we are able to survive. We are not affected. Why? Because these are present in extremely small quantities. Okay, since they are present internally in our bodies, therefore these sources are known as the internal sources of background radiations. Okay, so when we are studying background radiations, these are radioactive radiations, but they are present in small amounts and they are not really going to affect our lives as much as a active uranium atom will do. Okay, similarly the next one is external sources. Now this external sources, obviously the name suggests that it is not present in our bodies. These are coming from outside. From where? From the star, from the sun. So they are known as the cosmic radiations or the cosmic rays. Okay, so in that also you have a very small part of gamma rays, which are harmful radiations. So that is why we generally tend to avoid standing out for too long in the sun. Okay, so these are the background radiations. These do not affect us to that extent. Okay, so I'm going to put a stop to this particular lecture over here, and I have prepared a small assignment also based on what we have discussed so far. So I hope you will be able to solve that. It will be posted roughly around 1.5 to 2 hours after you have gone through this particular lecture. Okay, so at 10 o'clock it will be loaded. Please ensure that you go through whatever I have taught over here. All this is a part of your course, and read the book also so that you understand things better. Okay, after that only you are going to attempt the assignment. Okay, so thank you for now. We'll meet in the next lecture.